My name is Rana McMillan. I'm 35 years old, and according to my own nephew, I'm not really part of the family. I didn't know that when I woke up that morning. I just knew it was my dad's 50th birthday, a big one, the kind of milestone he'd been talking about for months. Backyard tent rentals, a taco truck in the driveway, a playlist full of Springsteen and Queen, suburban royalty treatment for the king of our little cul-de-sac. I drove in from Boston the night before and checked into a hotel instead of crashing at my parents' house, even though there was technically a spare room. 15 years in the city had put a comfortable distance between us. I had my own place, my own routine, my own life. I work in finance, make decent money, dodged a couple of almost marriage disasters, and quietly covered more of my family's bills than they will ever admit out loud. That's the thing about being the successful one. They don't see the loneliness. They see the debit card. To them, I'm just Raina, the woman who doesn't have kids, the one who works too much, the one they conveniently forget to invite until a bill shows up. I've paid off hospital stays, I've helped with down payments, and for the last 2 years, I've been funding my nephew Tyler's private high school tuition, tens of thousands of dollars, so he could strut through hallways in a blazer with a crest on it instead of a public school hoodie. Tyler has never once said thank you. On the way to the party, my phone buzzed. A text from Eric, my boyfriend. Eric, you at your parents' yet? Me, pulling up. Pray for me. Eric, you got this. Remember, you're allowed to leave if it gets weird. Love you. I stared at the love you, felt that tiny warmth bloom in my chest, and slipped the phone back into my bag. Eric grew up in a family where people apologized, where no one kept score of loans and favors. He still doesn't fully understand how my family operates. I'm not sure I do either. By the time I walked through the side gate into the backyard, the party was in full swing. Kids running under the tent, adults circling the taco truck, my dad holding court near the grill like a retired rock star. The air smelled like cilantro and charcoal and cheap beer. Someone had tied gold balloons shaped like 5-0 to the fence. I got a couple of distracted hellos, a few side hugs. My mom barely glanced over from the drinks table. Rena's here, my cousin muttered, like an item on a checklist. Tyler stood next to my sister Marlene, wearing designer sneakers and a limited edition hoodie I knew he hadn't paid for. He scrolled on his phone like it physically pained him to be present. No hello, no eye contact, just there. I told myself it didn't matter. I made a plate, offered my dad a hug. He smelled like smoke and aftershave. Hey, kiddo, he said, clapping my shoulder. Glad you could make it. Translation: glad you could pay for half this party in ways no one will mention. Later, someone shouted that it was time for a group photo by the fire pit. People shuffled into place. Cousins, aunts, uncles, my parents, Marlene and Tyler. I hung back for a second, then stepped into the empty spot at the end of the row. That's when it happened. Tyler turned his head, looked me up and down with that bored, practiced teenage disdain, and said, in the most casual voice in the world, "Grandma says you're not really part of the family." Just like that. Flat, loud, no hesitation. It felt like a slap I didn't see coming. For half a second, I thought maybe I misheard him. Maybe he'd said something else. Maybe. Then the laughter hit. Not the shocked kind, not nervous giggles. Real laughter. I heard my cousin snort. Someone actually clapped. My dad raised an eyebrow and smirked like Tyler had told a decent joke at open mic night. My mother didn't say a word. She didn't even look at me. She just adjusted a tablecloth that didn't need adjusting. No one corrected him. No one said, "Hey, that's not okay." No one said, "Don't talk to your aunt like that." My face heated. My pulse hammered. Every instinct screamed for me to walk away, shout, cry, anything but stand there. Instead, I did what I've trained myself to do for years. I smiled. I smiled like someone had told a harmless joke. Like it didn't hit me in the gut. Like it didn't confirm every ugly suspicion I've ever had about how they talk about me when I'm not around. "Okay, picture," someone called. I stayed in the photo. I stood there, frozen in place, throat tight, while the camera clicked and everyone beamed like we were the happiest, closest, most unbreakable family on the planet. 10 minutes later, I was slipping out the side gate. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look for my mom or my sister or my nephew. I walked to my car, hands shaking, and drove back to the hotel on autopilot. In the lobby bar, I ordered a drink I barely tasted, carried it upstairs, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at the wall. My phone buzzed. A photo from the party had already been posted on Facebook, all of them by the fire pit, arms around each other, with a caption from my mom. Family is everything. #blessed. I was in the photo, technically. Off to the side, half cut off. Something inside me went very still. I set the drink down, opened in my laptop, and logged into the education account I'd set up for Tyler 2 years ago. There was enough in there to cover another year and a half at that expensive private school. 3 clicks, that's all it took. Freeze account, no warning, no message, just done. My hand stopped shaking. My phone lit up again. Eric, how's it going? You okay? Me. I'll tell you later, just taking care of some things. At 8:55 the next morning, my phone was a light show. 22 missed calls from Marlene, several from my parents, a few from unknown, which I knew were my mom trying to get around the label I set for her. At 10:12, she called again. I picked up. What? I said. She didn't say hello, didn't ask if I was okay. You're heartless, Marlene screamed. What kind of woman punishes a kid for telling the truth? I waited, let the silence sharpen, then said, Tell Grandma thanks for the heads up, and hung up. By noon, my mom texted, Mom, we need to talk about what you did to Tyler. That was unnecessary. What I did to Tyler, not what he said, not what Grandma said, not how it might feel to hear your own family tell the next generation you don't belong. Just the money. Dad followed an hour later. Dad, call your mother. I didn't. That night, I sat in my Boston apartment with the same drink in my hand, scrolling through dozens of messages that all said the same thing in slightly different fonts. I was done. They'd shown me exactly where I stood. Okay, I thought. Let's see how funny it is when the tuition bills start hitting without me backing them. By Monday morning, the fallout began exactly the way I expected it would. Loud, frantic, and all about the money. When I rolled over in bed, the screen of my phone glowed like a full-blown emergency. 27 missed calls, 22 from Marlene, the rest from my parents. There was also a 9-minute voicemail from Marlene, which I didn't listen to. I already knew the script. It always started in the same place. Anger, then guilt, then a lecture on being the bigger person. I got out of bed, stretched, and let the phone buzz itself into exhaustion on my nightstand. At 11 a.m., Marlene switched to email. The subject line hit like a headline from a failing tabloid. Urgent. We need to talk about Tyler's tuition. I opened it out of morbid curiosity. Paragraphs, so many paragraphs. She wrote about how Tyler had no backup funds, how the school didn't offer scholarships mid-year, and how his future was now uncertain because of what she called my personal grudge. She said she didn't want to bring the whole family into this, but if I kept acting this way, I'd force her to. I actually laughed out loud, because that was exactly what I wanted. I closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, made coffee, and waited for the next wave. It didn't take long. Mom, Rena, be reasonable. Don't take this out on Tyler. Dad, call your mother now. Not a single word about what Tyler said. Not a single word about how I felt. Not a single ounce of accountability. All they cared about was the tuition. That night, after a long shower and half a glass of wine, I sat down at my laptop again, this time with intention. I logged into the accounts I had been propping up for years. The electric bill, the gas bill, the water bill, my parents' fountain, the family SUV loan I refinanced 2 years ago. My name was on all of it. I didn't cancel anything. I didn't delete autopay or send any dramatic announcements. I just paused every payment, quietly, deliberately. Let the due dates pass. Let the system send the overdue notices. Let the ripples begin. I clicked out of the last account and felt something inside me settle. A strange, cold clarity. A calm I hadn't felt in years. My phone vibrated again that night. This time Eric. Eric. Checking on you. Want me to come over? Me. Not tonight. I'm okay. Eric. Just remember, you deserve respect too. I stared at that message longer than I expected to. People like Eric say things like that so effortlessly. People like me take years to believe them. The next morning, Dad finally called. The moment I answered, he yelled, What the hell do you think you're doing? It didn't faze me. I was past that stage. Dad, I said calmly, do you pay those bills? Silence. He didn't like that question. Because I do, I continued. I have for the last 5 years, since you hurt your back, since you couldn't work, since Mom fell behind and nobody else stepped up. More silence, the heavy kind. Now, I said, do you think Tyler should apologize? He didn't answer. He just breathed into the phone, then hung up. Typical. By Thursday, the storm had spread to extended family. Mom called my Aunt Linda. the one person who had seen enough chaos to recognize patterns. Within hours, Aunt Linda called me. I didn't spin the story. I didn't soften it. I told her exactly what Tyler said, who laughed, who stayed silent. She didn't hesitate. They've been living off you for years, Rena, she said, and mocking you behind your back. They should be on their knees. She wasn't being dramatic, she was being honest. And somehow, the honesty hurt less than the silence I'd gotten from my own parents. By Friday afternoon, even my cousin Leo, who'd gone off to Silicon Valley and built an app that made him stupid rich, called. I heard what happened, he said. Rena, I've been waiting years for you to stop letting them treat you like an ATM. Good for you. That same day, Marlene sent another email. This one was calmer, shorter, colder. She wrote that maybe we could rebuild trust and find a way forward, but she still didn't apologize. Not for Tyler's comment, not for laughing, not for years of entitlement. Just a vague attempt to reset without acknowledging anything real. Too late. I closed the email and didn't respond. Saturday morning brought the moment I had been waiting for. The tuition panic had officially reached the school. At 10 a.m., I received a voicemail from Ms. O'Brien, the head of student financial services at Tyler's private high school. Her voice was polite and clipped. They were beginning the next billing cycle. They needed to know if I would continue to fund Tyler's tuition. If not, the spot would go to a waitlisted student. There was something in her tone, gentle but certain, that told me she'd seen this exact pattern before. Families running out of money, expecting rescue, never imagining the well might dry up. I didn't call back. At 3 p.m., Marlene showed up at my apartment building. She didn't have my buzzer code, so she just stood outside like she was staging a protest and sent text after text. Marlene, can we talk like adults? Marlene, you're ruining his life over something he heard from Grandma. Marlene, you're punishing a kid because you're bitter. Bitter. That word sat in my chest like ice. As if I hadn't paid for years of her son's education. As if I hadn't rescued them from shutoffs, overdrafts, bounced mortgage checks. As if I hadn't bled quietly while they laughed loudly. I didn't respond. She waited 20 minutes, then left. By Sunday morning, the family group chat was on fire. Mom, Dad, Marlene. Even Grandma had joined the circus. She sent a dramatic, paragraph-long lecture about how family sticks together and money should never come between blood. Not a single word about what Tyler said. Not one. Somehow I was the villain. I stared at my screen, remembering. The Italy trip I canceled because Marlene's car broke down. The months I covered my parents' power bill so they could keep the lights on. The emergency money. The medication. The groceries. The vacations I skipped. The life I put on hold. All so they could stay comfortable. That night, something in me snapped. But it wasn't angry. It was precise. I logged into the credit union account my dad had asked me to manage years ago, back when he was recovering from surgery. I was still a joint account holder. A little over $6,000 sat in it, money I had quietly deposited over the years. Money they'd forgotten existed. My name, my access, my money. I transferred every cent out. Not out of spite, just because I finally understood I could. By Monday morning, the cracks in their world were showing. My dad called 3 times before 8 a.m. I ignored each one. Then came a text. Dad, you've made your point, now undo it. There it was. The authority, the command. Still no apology. 10 minutes later, Marlene sent a screenshot from Tyler's school. They were starting withdrawal paperwork for non-payment. Marlene, please fix this. I muted the chat and set the phone down. Then I leaned back on the couch and watched the beginning of their collapse play out. Not with joy, not with spite. Just clarity. For the first time in my life, they were learning what it felt like to stand on their own 2 feet. And this was only the beginning. By Tuesday morning, I woke to something I hadn't felt from my family in years. Silence. No calls, no texts, no guilt-soaked paragraphs in the group chat. But it wasn't peace. No, this was the kind of silence you hear before a storm hits, the kind that gathers itself in the dark, waiting to strike. I made coffee, opened my blinds, and let the sunlight spill across my counter. For the first time in days, I wondered what it would feel like to have a morning without crisis. And then my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't have the bandwidth for surprises. When the notification chimed, I played the message on speaker while I sliced a bagel. Halfway through the recording, the knife froze in my hand. It wasn't the finance office. It was the head of disciplinary affairs at Tyler's private school. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. The tone of someone who had delivered bad news to wealthy, panicked parents more times than she could count. She explained that Tyler had been caught cheating on a midterm. Several students had come forward. One even turned in photographic proof of a cheat sheet tucked inside his sleeve. An investigation was already underway. Expulsion was on the table. My breath left my lungs in a single sharp exhale. They had spent days screaming at me about tuition, fairness, cruelty, all while Tyler was quietly wrecking his own future behind the scenes. When the message ended, I set the phone down, stared at it for a long moment, then did the simplest thing in the world. I forwarded the voicemail to Marlene. No comment, no explanation, no sympathy. 3 minutes later, my phone rang. This time I picked up. Marlene didn't yell. She didn't scream. Her voice was flat, hollow, stripped of all the bravado she usually wore like armor. I had no idea, she whispered. Rena, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't cheat. I didn't respond. The school's retaliating, she snapped suddenly, voice cracking. They're angry about the late payment. This is revenge. And whose fault is that? I asked quietly. She inhaled sharply. And then, like clockwork, she shifted blame again. You should have kept paying, she hissed. He wouldn't be in this situation if you hadn't done this to us. There it was, the inevitable pivot. Everyone's fault but Tyler's. I let her talk until her voice dissolved into frantic breathing, then hung up. 5 minutes later, my phone rang again. Mom, I answered. You need to help him, she said immediately. No greeting, no checking in. This could ruin his entire future, Rena. I closed my eyes. Do you still think I'm not really part of this family? I asked. A long pause. Then, click. She hung up. I sat there at my kitchen table, staring at the steam curling off my coffee mug. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt powerful. But what I felt instead was heavier, like something slowly settling at the bottom of a lake. That night, I checked my parents' accounts. Electricity, unpaid. Internet, suspended. Water, overdue. I screenshotted the electric bill and sent it to my dad with a single message. Figure it out. No reply. Hours later, Eric called. His voice was soft, careful. How are you holding up? I hesitated. Eric wasn't part of this mess, but he had become the one person who actually wanted to understand it. They're falling apart, I said quietly, and somehow it's still my fault. He sighed. Rena, when someone is used to taking from you, they'll call your boundaries betrayal. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. It shouldn't hurt this much, I whispered. It hurts, he said, because you love them more than they ever loved you back. I didn't respond. I couldn't. After we hung up, I sat alone on the edge of my bed, scrolling through photos on my phone. Not of family, but of old snapshots from trips I never took. Italy, Vancouver, Morocco. All the places I'd postponed because someone else had a bill due. My life in thumbnails. Paused. Muted. Put on hold. For people who laughed at me. For people who saw my worth only in deposits and payments. I closed the photos, lay back, and stared at the ceiling. By Wednesday morning, the universe delivered the next blow. A knock on my apartment door. I opened it to find Uncle Ray holding a six-pack and a half-smile. He lived nearby for work, and he had always been the one relative who didn't pretend the family was a fairy tale. I heard, he said. Figured you needed a walk. We took a slow loop around the park near my building. The air crisp, the leaves shifting colors overhead. They used you for years, he said finally, and now they act like you broke something. I didn't deny it. There was nothing left to deny. Ray exhaled, rubbed the back of his neck, then said the words that stopped me in my tracks. Your grandpa called me. I blinked. What? Why? He's rewriting the will. I froze. What are you talking about? Ray pulled out his phone, scrolled, and showed me a text. A message from Grandpa. I'm leaving it all to Rena. House, cash, lake property, not a dime to the rest. The world shifted beneath my feet. My breath caught. The lake house, the one they cherished. The family home, his savings, everything. Why? I whispered. Ray gave me a look I had never seen from him before, a mix of sadness, anger, and something like pride. Because, he said, Grandpa told them, if they want the lights on, they better start kissing the feet of the woman who kept them on for years. I covered my mouth with my hand. Ray added quietly, he's done watching them treat you like a servant. A chill ran down my spine, equal parts shock and recognition. For the first time in my life, someone in the family had drawn a line for me, not against me. But it wasn't the end. It was only the spark. Because when news like that hits a dysfunctional family, they don't apologize. They go to war. Ray wasn't exaggerating about the fallout. By Thursday morning, my phone lit up like a dying star about to explode. First came Marlene. Marlene. Rena, please answer. We need to talk. Now. Marlene. Did Grandpa really say that? Marlene, this isn't fair. Please don't let him do this. Then Mom, your grandfather is confused. He's making things worse. Mom, please call. Your father hasn't slept. Then Dad, tell him to stop this. It's causing problems. Not one apology, not one acknowledgement of what they did. Just fear. Then Grandpa entered the group chat. I'd never seen him use it before. The profile picture was a blurry photo of him fishing years ago. The message came through word by word, like he was typing each one with purpose. Grandpa, I told you all, Rena gets everything. She earned it. The chat exploded. Marlene, Dad, you can't be serious. This isn't right. Dad, please reconsider. We can work this out as a family. Mom, this is extreme. Rena is overreacting. Grandma chimed in as if summoned by drama. Family should not fight over money. Rena should do the right thing. The right thing. That phrase made something cold and sharp settle inside my chest. For years, doing the right thing meant paying their bills, covering their mistakes, pretending it didn't hurt. Not anymore. But the best message came last. Grandpa, you treated Rena like an outsider. Now she owns the inside. Silence on the chat. For almost an hour. Then Marlene tried again. Rena, please, for Tyler. He's devastated. Attached was a photo of Tyler at the dining table, head in hands, face buried in his sweatshirt sleeves. Once upon a time, that would have gutted me. Now, I felt nothing, because I had learned something the hard way. Guilt loses its power when you finally stop volunteering to carry it. More messages followed, half apologies, guilt tactics, logic gymnastics, but none of them said the words that mattered. I'm sorry. We were wrong. You didn't deserve that. Instead, they begged not for forgiveness, but for stability. Their stability, their comfort, their convenience. That night, while the group chat raged, Eric called. When I answered, I didn't say anything at first, just breathed. You okay? He asked softly. No, I admitted, but I'm clear. The line was quiet for a moment. I'm proud of you, he said. You're finally choosing yourself. I didn't respond right away because something in me cracked open at those words. The thing I'd been holding together with anger and silence and old wounds just loosened. After the call, I didn't open the group chat again. I didn't need to. By Friday afternoon, Grandpa called me directly. Just wanted to tell you myself, sweetheart, he said. Everything is yours. Already started the paperwork. The world went still around me. Grandpa, I didn't ask for that. I know, he said. That's why you deserve it. I swallowed hard. What did they say? I asked. Grandpa gave a gravelly laugh. I told them they can cry about it in the dark if they want the lights back on. I closed my eyes. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't spite. It was justice. And he saw it clearly. They said they'd change, he added, if you reconsider. Did you believe them? Of course not. They only change when the well dries up. He paused. You've done more for this family than all of them combined. You think I don't notice who visits, who helps, who's there? My throat tightened. I don't want them to hate you, I whispered. They already did, he said gently. They just hid it better. That weekend, the group chat took a different tone. Marlene, can we start over, Rena, please? Mom, we never meant to hurt you. Dad, you know we love you. Grandma, money should not come between us. Grandpa cut in again with a single message. She already lost everything. Respect, her place. You didn't notice. The truth hung in the silence that followed. Saturday morning, I woke to a formal email titled Olive Branch. It was from Mom. I could tell she hadn't written it alone. The phrasing was too polished, too rehearsed, too structured to be genuine. She listed my sacrifices, called me the backbone of the family, and invited me to Sunday dinner to rebuild trust. I didn't respond. Later, Dad left me a voicemail. You're not perfect either, Rena. Maybe try being part of the family instead of holding it hostage. I laughed, a bitter, tired laugh. Because if that wasn't the clearest proof of how they saw me, nothing else would be. Sunday came. They had dinner without me. And so did Grandpa. He skipped too. Later, Ray texted to update me. Ray. They begged him to come. Ray. He told them, you treated Rena like an outsider. Now she owns the inside. I stared at that message for a long time. Not with smugness, not with satisfaction. With clarity. Because once someone shows you what you really mean to them, you can never unsee it. That night, Marlene sent one last message. Can we talk one-on-one, please? I didn't open it. Not out of anger. Just peace. For the first time in my life, I no longer wanted to be part of something that never wanted me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free.